Hey everyone, and welcome to Kind of Evolved, a podcast about living naturally. Today I want to do something a little different and just talk about the general idea of this podcast, why I think natural living is important, why I'm doing this podcast, who I am, yada yada yada. I think you get the point. All right, so you're going to have to bear with me for a little bit through this because I'm using a rough outline. I might ramble a little bit. I'm going to do my best to edit this together so that it sounds like I am a coherent, rational human being. Something I normally have to fake in real time, but with the power of editing. All right, I want to start with why natural living, why I think it's important, why I'm willing to put my time into this podcast about this. But to answer that, first I need to define what I mean by natural living. So natural living, I think of as, stuff like eating organic food, eating natural food, avoiding processed foods. That'd be a simple example. Trying to only do things that are natural for human beings to do. Now that's a weird and vague statement because we live in a very unnatural world. I mean, humans are animals. We're supposed to just be out. We were originally just out living in the wild, and we now live in houses and we commute to work. It's a weird world we live in. It's not necessarily all bad. I'm absolutely not saying that, but I do think that humans in general have moved so far away from natural living that, as we've seen, it's causing lots of problems, both for the earth and for our health. And those are the two aspects of it. They're very different, but those are the two aspects of natural living that I'm passionate about. So first, there's the health aspect. When we do unnatural things, bad things happen to us a lot of the time. So eating processed food is bad for us. Being around exhaust from cars is bad from us. Right now I'm sitting in a chair hunched over a microphone. That's not natural. That's not good for my back. But that's a good example, actually, because there are different levels of unnatural things. You have to weigh the pros and cons. Right now, I'm sitting. There's no easy way for me to avoid sitting in the modern world. It's something that it is what it is. Same thing with cars. Unless you live in a city where you can quickly get where you need to go, either riding a bike or walking, cars are just now a part of humanity. So that's a distinction that needs to be made. There are unnatural things that humans do that I believe are, for the most part, unavoidable and should just be accepted at this point. Or there are unnatural things that have so many benefits that it's kind of like, okay, it's unnatural, but we're gonna deal with it. So for me, when I say natural living, I'm not talking about living in the woods without electricity. I'm not talking about selling your car and riding a bike everywhere. I'm not talking about extreme things like that. I'm talking about little tweaks that we can make while still being fully integrated into modern society. A perfect example would be the perfectly groomed front lawn. So people take something natural, a forest, cut down all the trees, plant grass from another part of the world, then they spray it with pesticides and herbicides, and they spend hours of their valuable time, usually on the weekends or the afternoons after they've worked so hard at their job, trying to support their family or whatever, and then they use their precious time to upkeep this lawn, which has somehow in modern society turned into this either a status symbol, or if your lawn doesn't look good, you don't look good. And then I find myself talking about that to people, and they're just like, well, it's the way things are done. Or what's the other? It's just, in my opinion, and you don't have to agree with me on everything, that's for sure. I have very strong opinions about many things. I remember the first time I heard someone say to someone else, geez, what do you have an opinion about everything? And I was just standing there listening. I was like, oh, is that not right? Are you not supposed to have an opinion about everything? Because once I learn something, or once I know about something, within 10 minutes, I've got an opinion on it. And I have a problem with like 99% of it. And it sounds like a very negative way of living, or just it just doesn't sound like a fun thing. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I think we are capable of so much better than what we're doing right now. And I think there's so many things left over from the past that are either I don't know, it's either tradition or, again, the way things have always been done. I think there's so much updating we can do. And I'll bring it back to the front lawn thing. I think lawns for 99% of the population are pointless. It's different if you have, an area for your dogs, or if you have kids that play in your front lawn, things like that. But most people, they upkeep their lawn and it just sits there and you occasionally walk through it and then that's it. To try to get back on track, because I don't even know what I've been talking about. So the big question is, why natural living? Why do I care about this? Why am I putting my time into this right now? Why is it something I believe in? And there's two aspects to it. There's the health aspect, and then there's the environment aspect. All right, so there's the health aspect where lots of bad things are happening to the human body because of the way we've moved so far away from living a natural life, the way humans were originally supposed to live. And that's very important to me because I hate that. And I hate it. I hate how corporations manipulate people, how people are getting sick, all of that stuff. And then even bigger than that is the environment. Because the environment, first, there's all the collateral damage, which is wildlife and the plants and the earth and beautiful nature out there that's getting destroyed by us. But there's also the human aspect of it, and this goes along with the wildlife too, where we are just gradually destroying the earth. And without an earth, we've got no home. So it's pretty important. Even if we're going to look at it selfishly, make it about us, about humans, it's required for our survival that we figure out all this environmental stuff. I feel like I've been rambling. Hopefully I can piece this together and it makes sense. But let me move on to why I'm doing this podcast. So I co-own an all-natural and eco-friendly skincare company called Naked Ape. And what we're trying to do, we're a small business right now. What we're trying to do is grow and basically try to take over the skincare industry because there's so many horrible things done inside the skincare industry, both environmentally and both towards people's health. There's just so many unnatural ingredients, so many chemicals. And I mean, there's the animal testing, which is horrific. There's deforestation to get certain ingredients like palm oil. It's just a mess. So we've been working on that, and I've always been passionate about the environment and people's health, especially when it comes to choosing good products and stuff like that. But the more I look into everything, the more I realize that this stuff's not being talked about enough. There's tons of scientists talking about the stuff. There's plenty of articles written by people way smarter than me, but I'm not seeing a lot of conversations like I want to have on this podcast where it's just simple stuff, small stuff. People hear scientists say things like, oh, we've got 10 years, 15 years before there's no turning back with the environment. And I think a lot of well-intentioned people get overwhelmed really quickly when they hear stuff like that because that's such a daunting thing to hear. And you think, oh, I'm just one person. What can I possibly do? But if we all make our own small changes, I believe it can make a massive difference and change everything for the better. I'm hoping this podcast can get people thinking about different things because I know people don't think about a lot of things that they do, little small things where I'm a very observant person in some ways, and I notice little things that can be changed that can have a decent impact, especially when a bunch of people start doing them. So I know a lot of people don't think about different aspects of stuff, especially when it's just second nature, things you've done your whole life, things that everyone you know do. So I want to be able to question what people are doing in a kind way, not like, hey, what are you doing? Put some thoughts in everyone's heads about little things that can be changed, that will be better for the environment, better for your health, etc., etc. I also want to show people my brand of natural living, if you will, because I think there are lots of people out there that still, when they hear environmentalist or someone who cares about natural living or a health food store, they picture the stereotypical hippie riding a bike everywhere, talking about how cars are bad and you're doing everything wrong and this and that. And I want to show that there can be what I consider to be a happy medium, which many people will disagree with me, And that's all right. I mean, I hope a lot of people disagree with me, honestly, on this, because if I'm just talking to people who 100% agree with everything I'm saying, I'm not reaching anyone, and there's not going to be any discussions to be had. While I am very opinionated about a lot of things, and I try to only be opinionated once I feel like I understand it enough, I'm going to do my research in this podcast, but I'm also going to be sharing my opinion on stuff. All right, so the next thing I've written down to discuss is the name of the podcast and what I hope to do in the future with this podcast, etc., etc. So the name of the podcast obviously kind of evolved. That's a play on the fact that humans like to talk about how we're the most evolved species in the world, but I feel like the most evolved species in the world wouldn't be destroying their home with their actions, which makes me think we just kind of evolved. You know what I mean? Like... Ants don't even destroy their environment. Ants take care of where they live. Squirrels take care of where they live. Chipmunks, birds, deer, every single animal out there takes care of their home. So kind of evolved is just to play on the fact that while we've done some amazing things as a species, we've also done some horrific things to the environment and to humans, just destroying our own health with our own actions. My ideal scenario would be that I have this podcast for, let's say, a couple years, and then I have to get rid of it because we have suddenly fully evolved as a species. I'd be very happy with that outcome. So let's work on that together, okay? The future of this podcast. I want to talk about so many different topics. All right, so obviously I'm in the skincare industry, like I said, so I definitely want to spend some time occasionally talking about different skincare aspects that you can transform into more natural versions of what you're used to, whether it's products I've come across that seem good, or just some DIY stuff. I'd love to talk about DIY stuff. DIY is fantastic. Because a lot of companies don't have great packaging. It's usually not biodegradable. So when you can do DIY, that's awesome. So I'd love to bring in some DIY stuff, some skincare tips, some eco-friendly natural skincare tips. I'm going to be talking about things like I mentioned before, like lawns. Maybe even talk about progress with eco-friendly technology and stuff like that occasionally. I'd love to bring guests in. I've never done a podcast where I'm talking to someone else, obviously, because I just started this podcast. So I'd love to talk to people who are smarter than me. That shouldn't be hard to find. Just experts in fields that I am not as educated on. My goal is that... What is my goal? My goal is to save the world, to be honest. That's really big picture goal. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm just rambling, and I'm probably going to cut half of this. But I'm going to get better at this. I promise. Give me time. You'll see. If you care about the environment, if you care about your health, if you care about natural living, trying to make small changes without completely changing how you live, I think you like this podcast. I'm going to try to keep things light and fast moving and fun and make jokes, and I'm also going to be talking about really real serious topics at the same time. So I'm going to try to find that balance. I'm hoping I'll bring up a lot of stuff that you've never thought about. That's my goal. And I'm hoping that as I share my opinion on things, that I'm not going to be so opinionated, I irritate people. I'm going to try and not come off too strong. I just want to talk about this stuff. It's not stuff people chit-chat about too much. We usually chit-chat about superficial stuff. Let's talk about some real stuff. Plus, I can't afford a therapist, and I really just need to vent about some things. So let's get to it. I think we can all be better. I think that's an exciting thought, that we can all be better. I don't think it's a bad thought. I think it's exciting to know that we can be better. The future's bright. It really is. Humans have done incredible... I mean, we freaking fly. We fly in metal birds. If we can do that, we can do anything, right? So let's do this. Let's do this together. We can save the world. We can all work together and save the world. I'm genuinely excited. I actually got goosebumps for a second. Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm excited for the future of this podcast. I'm going to get more comfortable. I'm going to get more fluent. I'm going to get good at this. You'll see. You'll see. I'm talking to you and I'm talking to myself because I'm very insecure. I'm trying to convince myself. Here's the progress, both for this podcast and for humanity, for all of us. The future's looking bright, everyone. Let's do this. And I'll see you next time. Take care.